Hey there, fellow travelers of the cinematic cosmos. I'm your guide, Joseph Sharafi, and I'm here to invite you to ride shotgun on a wild journey we call Flashback Montage. On this trip, we'll plunge headfirst into the glorious chaos of film, TV, and the strange tales of lifestyle coaches who have shifted the tides of human consciousness. In each episode, we'll storm the gates of a different year, exploring the psychedelic depths of the stories that made us weep, laugh, and redefine the American dream. So my friends, throw your aviator glasses on, grab some popcorn, and buckle up for a mind-bending escapade. Subscribe to Flashback Montage on YouTube, and together we'll dance with the ghosts of our favorite celluloid memories. See you on the other side. All right, welcome to Flashback Montage, the podcast where we take a trip down memory lane and revisit some of the most iconic moments and movies and TV shows and cultural moments of the past. I'm your host, Joseph Sharafi. Each week, I'll be joined by a special guest as we dive into a specific year and explore the highlights of that time. From the blockbusters that defined an era to the shows that kept us glued to our screens, we'll relive the nostalgia and celebrate the classics that still hold up till today. But we won't just be talking about entertainment. We'll also take time to look at the lifestyle coaches who have inspired and influenced us through our lives, and their impact can still be felt through everyone's lifestyles today. It's a journey through time that will make you laugh, reminisce, and maybe even make you shed a tear. So grab your popcorn, settle in, and let's take a trip back in time with Flashback Montage. This week's guest is just so excited for him to be here. He's a filmmaker, he's a director, he's a writer, he's a producer, just a wonderful person. Hisonni, thank you for being here. Could you please introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about your background and your interests?
Yeah, I am Hisonni Mustafa. I am a Las Vegas-based filmmaker and dad and friend and overall decent dude.
Congratulations on the birth of your son.
Thank you. It's been awesome so far.
It's amazing, isn't it? So could you, I want to get a little personal with you if possible. I want to ask you, how has filmmaking and television shows, how has it shaped your journey as a creative storyteller, as a person, as a man, as a film enthusiast? You know, how has that medium, the art form itself, because we're a big proponent, we say this all the time, big proponent of people going to movie theaters and filmmakers making movies that are worth people going out to the movie theater, because now it's such a big ordeal to get somebody to get off the couch with streaming services and everything. Like, you know, people making movies to go to the theater to watch. And I'm sure you're a proponent of going to the theater. Am I wrong?
No, I agree with that completely.
So could you just tell us a little bit about how filmmaking and television and the theatrical experience has shaped you and your journey as a storyteller?
Well, movies were a pretty critical part of my upbringing. I grew up without a dad, and my mom, it was just my mom and my four sisters and myself. So my mother used cinema as a way to teach me a little bit about masculinity. So the first movies I remember were Bruce Lee movies, and then Schwarzenegger movies, and Stallone, and Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren, the whole nine yards. I grew up on those guys, and I think my mom was hoping that it would give me an idea of what masculinity was, because I was just surrounded by women. And I think she was very afraid that I would come out ultra feminine by the time I was, a man.
Yeah.
And she was right. I feel like I learned a lot from not just cinema, but television and comic books about morality and masculinity. And, this may be overlapping a little bit, but ethics. It may sound silly, but like seeing the prototypical heroic stories really gave me an idea of the sort of person I wanted to be.
Wow. Very powerful. Thank you for that. Wow. Amazing. Well, you wrapped that up really nicely. That was really nicely tight package there. So we can go into the next segment. Our next segment is top 5. So pretty much we break down like, what are your top 5 TV shows from 5 to the least to the most is your number 1. Let's talk about shows. What's your 5 spot for your top 5 favorite TV shows of all time?
All right, let's give this a shot. So I think my top 5 TV shows of all time.
Not too fast. I don't want you to just run them off. We got to just do one at a time because we got to talk about it. I got to play clips while you talk about it and stuff. So.
All right. So I think my number 1 is the TV show Atlanta.
Whoa. Not 1. I need 5 from the fifth
Oh,
down
yeah,
to
okay.
one.
I'll start it over.
You
So,
guys didn't hear it. You didn't hear that. I love that
okay,
show, by the
didn't
way.
hear. So my
Huge fan.
5, that's really tough because they're all so great.
Yes.
But I would probably say because it's getting a little old,
Mm-hmm.
it might be like Friday Night Lights.
Oh, okay. NBC show. Can you tell us a little bit about Friday Night Lights? Not the movie, but obviously the television show. I think it was on NBC. Can you tell us
Well,
about
there
what
is
it's about and why you like it so much?
yeah, like it's the obviously it came to be because there was a book written about a Texas football team and
Odessa, yeah, right? Or Midland?
Odessa, Texas. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Permian Panthers. And
That's right.
then that book was written about real life football in Texas and the ups and downs the players had, which led to a movie in the early 2000s, directed by Peter Berg.
Yes, Peter
And,
Berg.
Yeah, and edited by Kobe Parker Jr., who's probably my favorite editor of all time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, Kobe Parker Jr. is the truth. And I really love that movie and the TV show because it's that cinema verite type feel, but
Mhm.
even more so than most movies I've ever seen because it was the first dramatic show I've ever seen embrace roaming focus and like slight zooms, not the hard push ins like The Office has, but like slight zooming and
Mhm.
like, on primetime television. Maybe I was just, maybe I was just kind of illiterate to what the TV had to offer at that point. But to me, it was revolutionary.
Do you watch Succession?
I don't. Unfortunately.
I think they do that sort of slight pull in every once in a while. J.J. Abrams would do that in like Star Trek. He would kind of add that extra.
Now, the fact that you said slight, Friday Night Lights is grimy with it.
Yeah,
Like,
they just like
really,
move in quick and out, pull in and out.
It's genuinely the first few words coming out of someone's mouth could be out of focus.
Oh, yeah.
But it kind of worked.
Yeah.
And like the cameras, it feels handheld. Probably is shoulder mounted.
Right.
And the actors were all new faces, which you don't really see anymore. So I really love that. So that's my number 5.
Wow.
I would say maybe number 4 would be probably House MD.
Oh, okay. Tell us a little bit about what House is about and why it's your number 4.
House MD is essentially Sherlock Holmes, but in the medical field. And it's revolving around a character who has a very, very painful and debilitating leg injury that causes him to be kind of a-hole to his coworkers, but everyone puts up with it because without his help, a lot of people die. And the show was developed by Bryan Singer. And I know Bryan Singer was a producer on it. It starred Hugh Laurie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Hugh Laurie won like 2 or 3 Emmys because of it. And it starred Omar Epps and a bunch of other really amazing guest stars that, like, the guest stars are kind of what you came in for. And of course, the mystery. They did a really great job in the early 2000s using VFX to show the inside of human bodies. And they did a lot of walk and talk scenes that to this day, I find to be really, really incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of the guest stars from that show throughout my career, in one capacity or another. And they were all like just as great as you hoped they would be. I even got to meet Bryan Singer and tell him how great I thought the show was.
Bryan Singer, how was that? He's a big time director. He's done like X-Men and
he was really nice.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, I met him at a premiere way back in the day, and I met him in the bathroom.
Whoa,
we were just chatting it up.
Scandalous, especially with
I was using the restroom, and he just walked in, and I was like, okay, I got to talk to this dude. So once he was on his way out, we started chatting it up, and I must have made an impression because my manager at the time hit me up and was like, yo, Bryan Singer wants to invite you to his party after the pretmiere. Unfortunately, I had to go, so I wasn't able to go there, but he seemed like a really great guy.
Wow. He's had some scandals going on.
He has, yeah. And it's, it's the guy's a product of a different time, and, the time where like if you were a really talented director, you could get away with a lot of stuff, and
Right.
we just don't live in that time anymore. Like, I've
It
heard
just don't
stories
matter.
about, the liberties he was able to take while shooting Superman
Oh,
in
really?
Australia. Yeah. And it's so crazy how you can respect someone's work and creative vision so much and really be hurt by the fact that their, their personal life doesn't reflect the image you have of them in your head. Not that they're responsible for being the person you see in their head,
Right.
but when you admire someone that much and then you hear these things about them and
It taints
they
it.
seem,
Like a
yeah,
Kevin Spacey thing or something. Like
yeah,
you watch all of his movies and now you're just slightly like, or like Bill Cosby, you're kind of like,
it
this meant a
stings.
lot
Yeah,
to a generation.
Bill
Oh,
Cosby bought the speaker system that Martin Luther King did that I had have a dream speech on.
you've got to be kidding me. What?
No, I'm not kidding.
Bill
He paid
Cosby
for that.
bought the speaker that Martin Luther King
The
did a
speakers, yeah,
speech in
yeah.
Washington on that special
And
day.
same guy who did all that terrible stuff is responsible for possibly me having a better quality of life because he made MLK's voice heard.
Like it's legendary, that sound. Everyone here knows, I have a dream. Like it's
Yeah.
just like it echoes through
So,
the
like,
whole.
without Bill Cosby, would that have happened the way it did?
I want to know the story of that. Do you know anything about that? Like of what happened? Like
a little bit, but not enough to go on the
do a
record.
rendition.
You know what I mean? I say go look it up. But
Yeah.
like that's how integrated Bill Cosby is into Black culture. Like a lot of Black culture wouldn't have happened without him. And it's amazing how like so many great figures in cinema and television they have that dual side to them. It's almost like genius is accompanied by madness.
Oh wow, that's powerful. So did Dave Chappelle say that Cosby bought the MLK on his Netflix?
I think a lot of people. I think it's kind of. I mean, it might have been one of those things where he tried not to get credit for it.
Oh,
But it's pretty widely known that he did that.
wow.
At least in the Black community.
Dave is too smart to correct this. He knew there's a redemption of Cosby. Obviously, there's nothing grandiose. Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that. That is awesome. Wow, what a good move for Cosby. Not a good move doing Spanish Fly. Those ladies.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's move on.
Yeah. Crazy. Oh, I actually met Bill Cosby.
How was that? Did he try and put something in your drink?
No.
Sorry.
In my early career, I used to shoot live events. My company was the company that brought cameras and set up the screens and the projectors so that the people way in the back can see the celebrity on stage as if they were right next to them.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those shows was Bill Cosby. And we shot 3 or 4 of the shows in one day.
What was his show? Was it a stand-up?
It was stand-up.
Oh, cool.
You wouldn't call it that because he sits in a chair.
Oh, okay.
But like,
it was sit down.
He sits in a chair, and the chair sits in the middle of the stage, and it has a sweater on it that says "Hello, friends."
Oh,
and he just sits down and he just talks, and like there is no memorization. He talks the way I do, except he tries to make you laugh, and he tells funny stories. But when you go back to his, it's funny because like we hovered around his. I was in my early 20s, and we would hover around his dressing room. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't dare go in or knock or try to ask to meet him. But we could hear him talking, and it was like your uncle or your dad was talking in the next room because the Cosby Show was so familiar to all of them. But he cursed. As much as he chastised everyone about using profanity.
Right, Eddie Murphy,
stage, he was cursing a lot in his dressing room, and it was like, holy. It was like Uncle Phil. It's not Uncle Phil. That's
not Uncle Phil. Different.
Like Cliff Huxtable was cursing like 5 feet from me.
Wow. Was it hard curses too, or was it just the light like?
Oh yeah, no, it was cursing.
He was going on hard.
Straight of cursing. So like again, we knew it kind of shattered the illusion. So that was number 4, right? House MD.
House MD. Yes. What's your number 3? You're a better host than me at this moment.
This is where stuff gets really tough. Mm-hmm. I want to say my number 3 is kind of tough. Mm-hmm. Give me a second to think about that. What's a TV show I have binged and really, really loved? Number 3 is hard. I know what my number 2 is. and I know what my number 1 is, but number 3 is really kind of rough.
We have faith in you.
Give me one moment. Let me think here. Oh shit. Okay. So number 3 is probably. Oh, this is really tough. My top 3 are like damn near interchangeable. No,
We got the Jeopardy music.
Okay, so I'm gonna say my number 3.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
My number 3 is the TV show Luther, which aired on BBC.
Idris Elba. Okay, could you tell us a little bit about what Luther's about and why you like it so much? Why is it worth top 3?
Again, it's like a modern version of Sherlock Holmes, but starring a black lead, and it takes place in London, modern day London.
And he's got problems too. He's got some problems.
Well, he doesn't have any physical ailments like House does, and he doesn't have any mental ailments the way Sherlock Holmes arguably did, or is portrayed to have in a lot of. He's just a cop who. The most interesting part about Luther is that he's a cop who really skirts the line of being good or bad. It's almost like a really. Like, I think Neil Cross is the creator of that show. He's a novelist who is my favorite writer. He's my favorite writer, period, is Neil Cross. And Neil Cross doesn't have a writer's room. He writes Luther by himself, which I think is pretty uncommon to have a single writer for an entire TV show.
Yeah, they've got a lot of series, or a lot of seasons, I think, right? And then they just came out with a new one, or was it a movie? Yeah,
it was a movie.
Did he write that as well, I'm assuming?
I'm pretty sure, because Luther is just kind of his thing on TV right now. And the thing about Luther is I think he's written to be this very bulky, huge guy who essentially could be as bad as the guys he goes after. And that's what makes him really good at getting them. It's like he's a cop who isn't afraid to break the law to get the guy he's after, if forced to. And the show is done with an amazing style. The cinematography, it's the best use of negative space I've ever seen in cinema or television.
Like Ozark or Atlanta, or what are those other ones that use those?
I wouldn't say. I have to say it's very different than both of those.
You think? It reminds me of that tone, of the color, and kind of the dead space, like Mr. Robot. Did you ever watch that with Rami Malek?
It's closer to Mr. Robot, and they're both like foreign shows, right?
Yes.
Mr. Robot is British too, right?
I think it's a British-American collaboration, because it's on USA Network, I think.
Yeah, the negative space, Luther came out before both of those. So like it was my first time seeing negative space used successfully and not feeling gimmicky.
Do you think Atlanta does the space well, or do you think that feels slightly gimmicky?
I think I'll talk about Atlanta because it's on my list.
We'll save that.
I think the cinematography of Atlanta, it feels extremely different than Luther to me. Luther is very still. Very rarely do they use handheld. Atlanta uses kind of shoulder mounted or easy rigged very regularly. Very rarely, they use Steadicam. Like Luther is pretty sleek. Like they don't really get grimy with it. And Atlanta has a heavy grain and a ton of diffusion and a lot of use of color. Luther feels more like very, very clean Alexa footage with a refined 35 millimeter grain. And not very strong diffusion, spherical. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you this, because I think you would appreciate this. When it comes to British melodramas, do you feel like they have a look? Like, because sometimes I feel like if I'm using a certain camera, like a Blackmagic or something like that, like it comes out looking like what I perceive as like a UK melodrama.
Possibly. I mean, well, I think Luther is my favorite British show. I've watched a bunch of others, but like the look of the British cinema to me, or television, isn't solely based on the actual aesthetic. It's based on the locations. The locations, in London and various areas in the UK, they're very distinct. That gloomy sort of look, the cars, the wardrobe, and the people. The people are key. One thing they do in the UK that they don't do in America is they cast average looking people. Like, that's my favorite part about Luther is when they cast a killer, he's ugly. You know what I mean? Like, when they cast a nurse, she's average looking. When they cast, you know, a new partner, she's not a super, you know, for Luther, she's not a supermodel. She looks like she could be a partner. Even Luther's potential love interest throughout the series, she's pretty, but she's not inaccessible.
Is that the skinny brunette who was in Game of Thrones?
No.
Okay, that's a different one. I'm not too familiar with Luther's
Ruth Wilson,
arcs.
I think is her name. Ruth Wilson, phenomenal actress. And, like, in my opinion, created an iconic character.
Wow. I'm going to have to give Luther a shot, I think. I've seen a few episodes, but not completely.
Luther's an incredible show that I get sucked into every time I watch it. And I watch it, like, every couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I also read every episode I could find.
Oh, wow.
And it's really, really well written.
Where do you find your screenplays just in general to read?
Various places, like all over the place.
You ever tried Drew's Scriptorama? That was like a big place to go to.
Drew's Scriptorama, I'll have to try it.
That was a good one. They would have like kind of spec scripts of old movies and finished scripts. It all kind of depends on, you know, people would just input them obviously from working on the productions. And it may be called just Scriptorama now. They might have sold the Drew part, but it was really cool.
It's Drew's Scriptorama still, yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's a good one. They got a lot of stuff on there.
But
we're not affiliated. We're not getting sponsored by Drew Scriptorama. But if they would like to join the Flashback Montage team, please let us know.
We're here. Yeah, we're here. So Luther will be my number three. And that's you know,
Idris Elba. I just got to throw him out, man. He's just such an amazing actor.
Yeah.
Love him. Love his choices.
Especially on that show.
Especially on that show.
He won a Golden Globe for that show.
Well deserved.
And yeah, it was a really wonderful thing.
He reminds me of my dad. Is that weird?
Does he?
Yeah, he does. His look.
I mean, watch the show, man. Like, the character of Luther is really, really great. And he's got a swagger that Sherlock doesn't have.
He's kind of like Shaft mixed with Sherlock Holmes.
There you go. Really great.
With slight anxiety issues. Yeah. And maybe some anger issues too.
Yeah, like, I mean, Sherlock, a British Shaft. Yeah, you could say that because, you know, Brits are, like, very etiquette bound.
Yeah.
And, like, but Luther is a badass, man. What's great is, like, they do a great job of making Idris seem huge. I think he's 6'3" in real life, 6'4", and he's fought MMA, so he's a capable guy. But they don't show that. They make him try to make him look really sexy and everything else he does. But on Luther, they're not afraid to make him seem like a big dude that you wouldn't want to mess with. And I really like that. And I love that you can count on Luther to be wearing relatively the same thing every episode. Like,
I know, right? That wool jacket.
Yep.
You know, it's a good thing too, I think, about it's that, like, he's a big black guy, but also he's got a heart. Like, you see him helping old white women, like, you know, protecting them, like shielding them from bullets or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
but you see him lay himself on the line.
Yes.
Because he cannot allow the other guy to win. Like, I've seen gangsters stab him in the hand and him just, you know, like put a nail through his hand and him pull it out and like shake it. Like, I've seen him be heartbroken before. Like, the first episode with him and his wife is some of the best acting I've ever seen from both him and the woman who plays his wife, Zoe. I can't remember her actual name.
The first episode?
Yes.
Okay.
Very first episode of Luther is
outstanding.
It's outstanding, and it's written amazingly. Like,
is it on BritBox or is it on Netflix or HBO
it's on
or Max?
Amazon or Hulu? It's on one of those.
Well, we can always find justwatch.com to find out where you can stream all of your. Again, we're not affiliated, but we should be. Just Watch. Awesome. Number 3, Luther. Thank you so much for that. Let's go to number 2. What is your number 2 favorite TV show of all time, Hisonni?
So I'm probably going to say that my number 2. Oh man, this is hard. I'm gonna just go ahead and say. So I'm gonna bump Atlanta.
Oh, Atlanta is number 2.
Yeah.
All right. I love this show. I'm a huge fan of it. But could you please tell the audience about what Atlanta is about and why you like it so much?
So Donald Glover, the creator of the show,
Childish Gambino.
Childish Gambino, aka Childish Gambino, he
AKA Lando Calrissian.
he describes the show as Twin Peaks with rappers.
Nice. I love that.
And for me, I just love Atlanta because, to my shame, it feels like the first time surrealism and absurdism has not been lost on me.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if that has something to do with the protagonist of the show being black or just the execution or both. But the surrealism of the moment is always something that resonates with me in each episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the alligator, with Cat Williams. Like,
there's countless moments of surrealism. There's the invisible car.
Yeah, the invisible car. Oh my god, that was so funny. I was like, dude, they made it work.
Every
episode, this dude's got an invisible car.
Teddy Perkins is a big one. The first episode is just lemon pepper wet is a surreal moment. Like I can name 1,000 moments from Atlanta that are either extremely absurd for a point or surreal to emphasize what it feels like to be black in America. At least that's the way I interpret it. And like it hits different because Atlanta plays as just great entertainment for most people, but for me it plays almost like a documentary.
Right.
The way I feel in certain moments is nailed so clearly on that show. Like the lemon pepper wet moment. Yeah, that's how black people feel about their favorite dishes. Like when that shit comes out and it's right and somebody cuts you a discount or something, that's real. That's how we interpret that moment.
Yeah. Do you remember when he went to the woods and he got in this whole thing in the woods? That was one of the best episodes, I feel like. I love that.
Yes. The greatest part about that episode was that Brian Tyree Henry's mom had died a couple months before that. And they start the episode with his mom appearing to him in the kitchen and chastising him about not being up and not.
Yes, I do remember that.
So like that episode was really important for him. And then the surreal moment of at the end having to take the picture with his face all bloody and his mouth full of blood for the kid. For the kid at the end of the film. And then the moment of getting robbed.
Yes.
Like that.
He didn't expect that. Yeah.
I've been robbed by crackheads before. And it's always like, there's always a moment of like, this is about like where you recognize that these people are not interacting with you in a normal way. There's something about you. And before you can even say it happened, the shit is going down. And you're like tussling with someone. Like, that's real. And then just the fact that they're willing to make commentaries on real life things. And like, to have Skarsgård in the final season was really hilarious. To have Liam Neeson in the final season.
Oh, wow. See, I have not seen the final season just yet. And I was actually really sad to hear that
it wasn't the final season.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
It's the third season. My bad.
Is this next one coming up, the final one?
No, it's done.
It's done. Okay.
It's done.
So then I haven't seen the last two seasons then. So I need to hop on those immediately.
My favorite episode is the final episode of season 3 with Zazie. Zazie playing Van. It's her episode in France, and it's probably tied for like my favorite episode of television, period. She's just incredible. Like they use her so sparingly, but every episode that she's the lead of, I remember every moment of it. And a couple weeks ago, I was able to sit in on an editing session for a major commercial that was being edited by the woman who edited Atlanta.
Oh, wow. How was that?
And she edited that episode. She was amazing. And it was everything I thought it would be. And I learned a ton. And I'm excited to, work with her again and sit in, sit in on anything she's doing.
Can I ask you, what was the one big takeaway that you took from sitting away with an editor from Atlanta? What was like the one big thing that you were like, oh, wow, okay.
I know what I'm doing.
Nice. You got some kind of confirmation. That's amazing.
Like the biggest thing about being a filmmaker that hasn't quite established myself in Hollywood or with studio films or network TV is that I don't know if my tendencies will get me hired or fired.
What are your tendencies?
It's my general approach to filmmaking. Here in Las Vegas, we work in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Like we're really working from the gut. And as much as we want to learn from other filmmakers, it's really tough to organize that. It's really tough to get a guy who works as hard as you to put their stuff aside to just, develop some stuff together, sit down. It's really tough to get a guy like me, because we're both dads. We're not just directors, we're filmmakers.
And we're businessmen. We own companies. Yeah.
Yep. We're editing stuff. We're everywhere. And to know that you're good enough to do it, but to not know if your workflow or your bedside manner or anything is considered industry standard. The process I'm going through right now with this program called the Commercial Directors Diversity Program, which is a DGA run program meant to bring more directors into the guild that's, do commercials and, have a diverse perspective.
That's amazing.
Like that is teaching me that I'm on the right track.
Absolutely.
And that I'm more than likely the sort of guy that would get hired rather than fired.
Absolutely. So, man, that's amazing. And I just got to give a quick shout out to Lakeith Stanfield. He is my favorite actor.
Oh, yeah. That's my girlfriend's favorite character from the show.
Darius? Oh, dude, I love him so much. And then to see him just keep getting great roles and keep doing bigger stuff, just amazing. And Jordan Peele as well. I know he doesn't have anything to do with this, but like again, another filmaker that's just kind of...
Once again, first episode Lakeith, where he looked of Atlanta, where he looks at Donald Glover's character's dad and says, "Hey man, can I measure your tree?" And his dad says, "Not right now." And he goes, "Oh, not right now. That's basically no." Yeah.
And he's all like under his breath and so
you're
nonchalant.
In for something when characters talk like that. Yes. When characters are weird.
That's like a Tarantino type movie. Is like you kind of know you're coming.
He's the most charming. Like they could have gone typical pothead with him, but like he's this Niger boy who is super resourceful and constantly underestimated. And I love that they double down on the character being essentially a freeloader.
Yeah.
But he's so charming, you can't help but keep paying for his stuff because you want him to be around.
Do you remember that episode when he goes to get the piano?
Teddy Perkins.
One of my favorite. You mentioned that. One of my favorite moments of Lakeith is him going in there and having to handle that whole situation. That person tied up in the attic.
There's so many iconic lines just from that episode.
And then Donald Glover dressed up as that like Teddy himself. Was he Teddy or was he pretending to be Teddy because he had somebody locked up?
He was Teddy Perkins in that episode, and like apparently they say Lakeith wasn't sure who it was because the whole point was to try and trick Lakeith into thinking like this was an actual actor that they got and that he's really weird and don't look at him too long, don't do this too long.
Look at him
but he was like, oh shit, I don't want to step on the toes of this Teddy dude.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. They played a prank on him the whole time.
And he might be such a good actor that he just decided, I'm not going to spend my time figuring this dude out. I'm just going to try and make the most out of moment by moment. But, he might have had a suspicion.
That's amazing. Atlanta, one of my favorite shows. Absolutely love it. I love the cinematographer and the director who does it. He's done a lot of music videos. I forgot his name.
Murai, he did the This Is America.
He Blank Space for Taylor Swift. Yeah, he's done a lot of great stuff. I love his visuals. He's got a great look. I love it.
Yep.
So remember the guy who hands him the sandwich on the bus? In the sandwich, and he walks off and just goes in the woods?
So
what does that mean?
like in my last short, I homaged that moment. Like it took me 6 months to get a bus.
Oh shit.
But we shot on a bus and we had a surreal moment happen on the bus. And that's my last short is a complete nod to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And it's really sad because I'm like, I didn't announce that, yo, this is my version of Atlanta. But when I say that, if I were to put that out there, I think the film would do a lot better at festivals. Although it's doing great and it's already won me some awards and stuff, I still think like
congratulations.
People just haven't put together that this is, instead of it being Atlanta, it's Vegas.
Well, I'd be so surprised. It's so funny. I've actually done a web series called Clark County, and a lot of it was based on.
That's one of the characters from Atlanta too.
That's hilarious.
That's one of Paperboy's rival rappers.
It's Clark County. That's his name.
Yeah, Clark County. Yeah, when they put the gun in the guy's bag at the airport on Atlanta, that's Clark County's manager.
Dude, that's hilarious.
The Yoo-Hoo guy. Remember the Yoo-Hoo
Yes, I do. Yes.
That's Clark County.
Oh my God. So that's funny.
Too.
So I did a Clark County, and it was kind of in the vein of Atlanta. Number 2, Atlanta. Wonderful, amazing. What's your number 1?
My number 1, I think, has to be Smallville.
Smallville, really?
Yeah,
with
Smallville,
Tom, what's his name? Tom
Welling, Michael Rosenbaum.
As Luthor, as Lex Luthor?
Crook.
Oh my, okay. Tell us a little bit about what Smallville's about and why it's your number 1 TV show.
So Smallville is a show that was on the WB and the CW, developed by Miles Millar and Al Gough, who about Superman before he became Superman.
Mm-hmm.
A teenage Clark Kent, teenager, essentially high school and college age Clark Kent, who hasn't fully gotten all of his superpowers and is kind of learning what it means to be a hero or a villain. And the show revolves around the relationship that he has with his best friend, who on the show is Lex Luthor.
He's his friend?
His best friend.
What in the world? Well, I've watched Smallville. Why am I not remembering this? Like I literally just were playing a clip and I just saw Superman save Lex Luthor from getting shot in the head. And so that kind of made me think, what's going on?
Yeah, like Smallville. So Smallville came out in 2001. And I remember boycotting the show because I was like, hashtag, well, there weren't hashtags back then, but if my attitude was hashtag not my Superman, I just wanted Chris Reeves to be Superman.
Sure.
I didn't watch Lois and Clark. I didn't watch any
Dean
other
Cain,
iteration of Superman. Yeah, even though Dean Cain is amazing. And
he's good.
Is the first Asian American Superman.
Amazing. He just had just a touch of Asian, right?
I mean,
was he full on? Because I feel like they kind of were like, we're not going to go full Asian, but we'll go part Asian, part Caucasian.
I think he passes, but he's Asian.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Like he's half. He's a mix, but like I think he's proudly Asian. So,
I love to see that.
I think it's kind of dope that like a lot of people don't even know that there's been an Asian Superman.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think they look at Dean Cain as, you know, I don't think that's the first thing they think. That's
his
amazing.
Look is so unique too that it worked because, you know, he looks so exotic that he could play someone not of Earth. He's so mixed and different looking, and I really like that. I think he was the first brown-eyed Superman too.
Amazing.
Wow.
Smallville.
So Smallville is about obviously it takes place in Smallville, which is the city where in Kansas where Superman crashes to Earth. Except in this story, he doesn't just crash in his ship. He crashes with a cascade of chunks of Krypton that blew up.
Oh, wow.
And because, you know, which is known to the everyday person as kryptonite.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is, in this world, kryptonite doesn't just make Superman sick. It's radioactive and it changes the DNA of humans.
Oh,
so
it's kind of like
if you have enough exposure to it, it can give you mutations or superpowers. And because Clark discovers that it's radioactive chunks of his home world causing these freaks of the week to emerge, it's his responsibility to handle them and to protect Smallville from the mess he made.
Wow. Tom Welling was great. You know, he was a really good Superman, honestly. especially
He
young
was
stuff.
learning how to act on that show. They have a great show called Talkville that I watch every week while I eat breakfast and now take care of my kid.
Yes.
And they're like a part of my like I feel like I'm hanging out with friends every week.
Yes.
But I boycotted Smallville because it wasn't Chris Reeves. And then like I had this amazing day. I got paid, so I had money in my pocket. I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
I got paid. I had a full tank of gas.
Mm-hmm.
I took a girl on a date.
Nice.
We went to the mall. We
Mm-hmm.
we ate. We talked. We had a great date. I was an idiot. I bought like a bag of chocolate covered espresso beans because I just thought they were a treat.
Mm-hmm.
I was just popping these espresso beans. And I get home and I turn on the TV and I see this amazing like movie of the week or something on there. And I'm like, man, they put a huge budget into this. It was cars exploding. It was very sleek shots, great visual effects. And I'm like, God, this dude who's like, and this dude is like blowing stuff up and robbing banks. And I'm like, this is the coolest like movie I've seen in a long time. And the guy who does it looks a lot like Superman. That's so crazy. And I start watching, and then it goes to commercial break, and the title card hits. Somebody save me. And it's Smallville, right? And I'm like, holy shit, this is Smallville? Superman is a villain. And as I watched, it was the first episode of season 4 where Clark Kent he had Red K on him.
Yeah.
And Red K makes
him evil.
Clark a villain, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Makes him like lose all of his inhibitions and become a little bit of an a-hole. And that episode, he would like just so much charisma from Tom Welling, great acting from his co-stars, amazing production value. I'm talking, they blew up cars for a TV show.
Yeah.
Not a car, many.
Like actually. They had a big budget.
Visual effects and like they're having guys shoot machine guns and Superman.
CGI, like heavy CGI.
Yeah, it was amazing. So I look at the clock. It's like 6:45 or 7. I got these espresso beans flowing through my veins. I hop in the car, go back to what was called Suncoast at the time. And that was a place where you could buy DVDs. And I just went.
Suncoast.
And I went and I bought.
Super expensive. 1. Everything was so expensive there.
But that check I had, I spent it all on season 1, season 2, and season 3 of Smallville.
No, you didn't.
And I just started binging like crazy, and like because the episodes were coming out every week after I finished, I would just rewatch season 1, season 2, season 3. Smallville was the reason why I moved to LA and started pursuing my dreams, is because I needed to be a part of that world.
Wow. I can totally relate. That's amazing. So Smallville, you're number 1. Amazing. We did it, guys. We did top 5 TV shows. Now we're moving on. Top 5 movies. What is your 5 spot for movies? Go.
Holy crap. 5.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, really, really tough. So I would say number 5 is the foreign version of Let the Right One In.
Ooh, a vampire movie, right? Tell us a little bit about that, about Let the Right One In and why it's your number 5.
So Let the Right One In is a film that takes place in, I want to say like Norway or Sweden. And it's about 2 children, 2 like 12-year-olds. One is a like damn near albino boy who is bullied at school and a loner. And it takes place during the winter, obviously. It's like perpetually winter in this film. And he has a new neighbor move in the middle of the night. And it's a 12-year-old girl and her grandpa, seemingly. And as the film progresses, these 2 characters form a bond. And as the film progresses more, this little boy discovers, I will not ruin this movie for you because this movie is just incredible filmmaking all around, incredible storytelling. You have to see it. I want to say that like he discovers that she is supernatural in nature.
Special.
And it's a love story. So let's say that.
Powerful. Let the Right One In is a 2008 Swedish romantic horror film directed by Thomas Alfredson, based on a 2004 novel of the same title by John Avid Lindqvist. This was produced by Carl Mullender and John Nording, starring Kari Helbrandt, Linda Lenderson, Pierre Ragnar, Eka Nord, Peter Kerberg. Cinematography by Hoyt van Hoytema. This was box office. The budget was 4.5 million, and it made about 11. So it was a modest win for EFTI production company. Wonderful Swedish movie. Love it. I got to definitely check that out. Okay.
Incredible film. The pacing, the tone, or the like general mood of the film. There's very few films that make you feel where the film takes place and feel like you're there like this film does. So that's why I think it makes my top 5.
Wow, top 5. I love that. What's your top 4?
Okay, so my number 4 is probably. Ah man, this is really tough. Like I feel like I know my 3, 2, and 1, but number 4. Oh geez, number 4. Probably. I want to say Batman Begins.
Dope. Second Batman series by Tim Burton. Tell us a little bit. Oh, no, wait. No, Batman
Chris
Begins.
Nolan.
That was Chris Nolan. I was thinking Batman Returns.
It's the start of the Nolan trilogy.
So tell us a little bit about Batman Begins and why it's your number 4.
Batman Begins is a incredible film by Chris Nolan that essentially rebooted Batman for Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow...
Don't worry about them.
They must really like the movie too.
They're like, Batman's awesome.
That was a pretty good Bale voice your dog just did.
Bruh.
But somehow the movie flew under my radar. I had no idea they were making a new Batman movie. My best friend came into my house one day and was like, yo, I got us tickets. We got to go. And I was like, to what? And he was like, new Batman movie. And I still couldn't get the taste of Batman and Robin out of my mouth.
Yeah,
so
George Clooney. It was tough.
But to see how Chris Nolan, he cast Christian Bale, which was a huge indicator. Christian Bale had just done The Machinist and American Psycho, and was really quickly making a name for himself.
Yeah.
In terms of being like one of those actors who,
a serious dramatic actor, A-list level.
They disappear in the role.
Yeah.
So it was going to be interesting to see how, it just said how serious he was taking the film. And then, you go and you see the film and you see how he reinterprets Bruce Wayne. Well, it was the first time you saw Bruce Wayne decide to become something other than Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
You saw his training. I'd seen it in the comic books and I'd seen it in the animated series.
Ra's al Ghul. Yeah.
Yep. To see that character.
And Liam Neeson.
Yep. To see the cinematography, the tone. It was almost like a noir film, but a superhero. So this crossover.
Christopher Nolan does noir so well. That's like his bread and butter. Absolutely.
Yep. And to see how all the tech was grounded, and to see the reimagining of the Batmobile,
which Mr. Fox, Lucius Fox in there now.
Yeah, I love The Dark Knight, and I probably it's weird because I just watched The Dark Knight last week on my way to LA on a flight, and I'll watch parts of The Dark Knight over and over and over again. But I have watched Batman Begins. It's probably the most watchable film of any of my picks. I watch it the most.
Wow.
So that's my number 4.
Batman Begins. Wow. I think that's such a great pick because it epitomizes where superhero films went and where they're at now. Batman Begins is a 2005 superhero film directed by Christopher Nolan, written by Nolan and David S. Goyer. And
Jonathan Nolan.
Was he a part of that too on the screenplay?
That's his
they
brother.
Don't have him.
His brother, I thought.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure they're brother, but it doesn't look like he's actually credited for the first movie screenplay. Maybe he popped in on the second one and the third one.
Maybe.
So it's also starring Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Liam Neeson, Katie Holmes, Gary Oldman, Cillian Murphy, Tom Wilkinson, Rutger Hauer, Ken Wantabe, Morgan Freeman. Cinematography is by Wally Fisser. Edited by Lee Smith. Wonderful stuff. This was a $150 budget. It made $373 million. So this was a huge hit for Warner Brothers. This is the first installment of his Nolan's trilogy. Wonderful. Wonderful. So what is your number 3 then, Hisonni?
oh man, I don't want to leave anything out. But I guess right now the movie that's popping up for number 3 is Get Out.
Oh, I love Get Out. Tell us a little bit about Get Out and why it's your number 3.
Get Out is the story of a
Oh yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I can't ruin this for you, but so Jordan Peele, a very, very prestigious comedic actor.
Mm-hmm. Key
who
and Peele,
was half,
Mad
he was
TV.
half of the dynamic duo Key and Peele, who I swear I think are still putting out sketches somehow, because there's no way I haven't seen them all by now. But every time I go on YouTube, there's one I haven't seen. But yeah, Jordan Peele just decided one day he was going to show us he was the best filmmaker in the business, and released a film around Halloween. I think it was October. And essentially it's
January.
January?
Mm-hmm.
Was it January?
January.
Oh, okay.
Well, okay. So January 23rd in Sundance, February 24th in the United States as a wide release.
Okay. So he my bad. Scratch that. I think I associate it with Halloween because
it's so scary.
Is the scariest movie I've ever seen.
Hell yeah, dude!
Like it's my top horror film, which is why it makes my list. It owns that genre for me.
And Lakeith Stanfield's in it also, my boy.
Yep. And it's essentially a psychological thriller that embodies that. Essentially, I would say the film is a really clever way of expressing to America the genuine fear and trauma that African Americans have. And again, it's a version of absurdism. Mm-hmm. If he didn't make this film and make it as strange and weird as it was, people wouldn't know how we feel about white America a lot of the time, or what we believe is logical and the fears we have. Like the opening scene is really amazing of Get Out because Lakeith is essentially showing how afraid he is just to be in the suburbs, and that's true. Black people don't like the crazy part about most suburbs is they have really well manicured lawns and they have a lot of trees, and black people don't like to be around where there's a lot of trees.
Right.
We don't have a good
history with trees.
Yeah. So
in the woods,
exactly. And then it's also a place historically where affluent white people lived and black people didn't belong. So, and then there's sundown town. So like he's in the suburbs at night. And the whole film is a series of scenes that analyzes why black people fear seemingly mundane scenarios that way. Wow. And I really appreciate the thought put into that film. And
I really do. Worth an Academy Award, one of the best screenplays I've ever read. And it was just amazing. So Get Out is a 2017 American psychological horror film written and co-produced and directed by Jordan Peele, legend, in his directorial debut. What an amazing. Stars Daniel Kaluuya, Allison Williams, Bradley Whitford, Caleb Landry Jones, Lakeith Stanfield, Stephen Root, Catherine Keener. Cinematography was by Toby Oliver, edited by Gregory Plotkin. This was a $4.5 million budget. This is a very low budget. Blumhouse, yes, and distributed by Universal, and it made $255 million in the box office. This was a huge swing and a huge hit for Peele and Blumhouse. Amazing, what a wonderful pick, and I think it really does have. It talks a lot about how I don't want to ruin it too much, but how it feels like almost like the white people of the world steal the talent and hard work of colored individuals and call it their own, in a sense. And that's really kind of what that movie is kind of almost in a sense saying, is literally like, we've taken everything from you and now we want the body now. So I really
this is a really good way to put it. But yeah, man, I'm gonna leave it up to you guys to watch, because half the fun is seeing what other people take from it.
It's beautiful. I love movies that are like that. All right, so that was your number 2. Let's go ahead and talk down to what is your number 1.
That was my number 2?
That was your number 2, because you switched up. You said, I think I'm going to put Didn't you? Is this number one? This isn't number one.
This is number two.
I think this is number two. I mean, we're now talking about number one.
Oh, okay. We're on number one now?
Yes.
Okay. My number one is probably Rocky.
Rocky. Classic. Yeah. Sylvester Stallone. Tell us about what Rocky is and why you like it so much.
So, well, it feels weird to tell people what Rocky is.
Some people may not know. They may know, oh, okay, Sylvester Stallone. I don't really know about it, but what's it about?
Okay, so I think it's 1976. Winkler and Chardoff produced indie film. I think it was a just under $1 million film that grossed hundreds of millions of dollars by, calculated by today's inflation. It was the second film ever to use Steadicam, and it's the story of a journeyman boxer and essentially leg breaker for the mob who gets an opportunity to fight the heavyweight champion and turn his life around, and decides to put his all into that opportunity. So it's the consummate underdog story. And, what was crazy is life was imitating reality, because Stallone wrote that film and essentially had to forego hundreds of thousands of dollars for the script. Like, it was either get paid nothing and get a lower budget to act in this film, or get paid a fortune to go away and let us cast who we want and make Rocky with another person. Wow. And Stallone refused.
He's like, no, this is mine.
And I mean, it was a really kind of like cheaply made film. It was made for less than
$996,000,
which is less than like really nice Colgate commercials.
Absolutely.
So like,
Old Spice.
Toothpaste commercials have bigger budgets than Rocky did, and Rocky went on to win Best Picture, got nominated for Best Screenplay. Stallone obviously went on to become incredibly legendary, but it all came from him being willing to gamble on himself same way the character he was playing did. His wife did the set photography for free. His brother was in the film. His father was in the film. His dog was in the film. The wet downs of the streets in the films were just Philadelphia neighbors of the location they were renting. They helped the film by just throwing buckets of water
out their windows,
pots and pans of water out the windows and out their doors to wet down the street, because they needed it. Like, there's a famous scene of Rocky running through a farmer's market in the film, and people were like throwing fruit at him, and it seems like everybody knows Rocky, when in reality, no one knew them. They were stealing that location, and someone just threw something at him.
Yeah, that guy, he just throws a fruit at him. Yeah.
Yeah, and he just happens to catch it and make it work.
Yeah.
So like everything you see is lightning striking. Every scene is lightning striking.
It's lightning in a bottle.
It's lightning in a bottle.
Rocky,
and,
1976.
I probably watched that movie more than any other movie, except for Batman Begins.
Rocky, to be honest, I've got to sit down and watch all the Rocky series. I think I've watched this one and maybe the second one, but I've never really sat down and watched the rest of them. And it sounds really amazing.
I feel like I'm a huge boxing fan in general. I feel like I have like a really high level boxing intellect.
Oh, nice.
And I feel like I know the Rocky series way better than most people should. I have like a scary amount of knowledge about Rocky because, again, I grew up on that. Like, Rocky is one of the first movies I ever watched because my mom wanted me to be a man in her head. She wanted me to know what men look like. And that's what men look like to her. So, and I just took a lot more from it than she expected.
That's amazing. Thank you, Mom. Rocky is 1976 American sports drama film directed by John G. Avildsen,
who also did The Karate Kid.
Ooh, and written by and starring Mr. Sylvester Stallone, legend. First installment of the Rocky franchise. This was starring Stallone, Taya Shire, Burt Young, Carl Weathers, Burgess Meredith. Cinematography by James Crabe. Edited by Richard Halsey and Scott Conrad. This was distributed by UA, United Artists. It was a $960,000 budget, and it made $225 million. Huge. Opened December 3rd, 1976. What an amazing pick. Oh my gosh. Guys, we've done it. This is amazing. We've done top 5, top 10. We've done it all. Now this leads us to our next portion of hotspots. Now every guest gets a special year, and we've gotten a year for you. It's 2009. So let's go over just quickly kind of what are the movies, the TV shows, and a lifestyle coach that was killing in 2009. So the movies, top movies of 2009: Avatar, The Hangover, and Up. Any of those movies kind of hit somewhere in a soft spot for you?
I do not like The Hangover. I don't think I've watched it all the way through.
Oh, okay. Why do you not like The Hangover?
They're just not funny to me. I don't know why. I just have no interest in that sort of comedy. It just didn't. And it's crazy because I love Bradley Cooper a lot, but I just have no interest in and I love the writer.
Yeah.
Craig Mazin, but I don't like
how they put it together
at all. Yeah,
Avatar?
it just doesn't interest me. It seems like they made the same film a bunch of times, and but, I could be generalizing, and it just may not be my cup of tea.
That's fine.
Avatar.
Do you like Avatar?
Did not care for Avatar at all. Okay. I thought it was the most overrated film I've ever seen before in my life.
Nice.
It was like Fern Gully.
You didn't like Fern Gully?
No, I didn't. I didn't like Fern Gully either. My little sisters loved it, and I ended up having to watch it way too much.
How about Up?
I've never seen Up.
Never seen Up? That's actually a solid, really good movie. If you ever get the chance, Pixar movie. I think now you're kind of in that realm of maybe watching those, and there's some good Pixar movies out there. Okay, well, let's move to shows. How about Breaking Bad, The Big Bang Theory, and Glee? Have you seen any of those shows?
I've never seen Breaking Bad.
Okay. Really good.
I've never seen The Big Bang Theory.
Okay, never seen Big Bang.
I'm on Glee.
You're on Glee?
Yeah.
You're watching it now, or you play a character in it?
First season.
Who do you play in Glee, bro?
You'll have to go figure that one out.
Wait, what? Wait, Hisonni's in Glee?
So I was acting to pay for my film equipment.
What?
And that was one of my gigs I got. That was the last acting gig I needed to pay for the camera I wanted and the lights and stuff. So I got to meet Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk.
Oh yeah, wow, Ryan.
As a matter of fact, a couple of my co-stars from Glee were in my feature, Takeout Girl.
Oh, nice.
A couple years ago, because I made such friends during that season. I got to shoot for a couple episodes. I don't know how many I ended up in because I've never watched the show.
You've never watched the show, but you play Nick in Glee.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got to know what show this is. I've got to watch this. I got to see who Nick is. I'm going to find this out. I'm going to put this into our edit. I've got to re-edit and throw a picture of you up in Glee. That's amazing. So you've never seen the show, but you were killing it in 2009 on Glee. Amazing. Okay, well, let's move on to our next pot. It's a lifestyle coach, Shaun T. Have you ever heard of Shaun T?
I have not.
Wonderful. We're about to find out about him. Shaun T was born as Sean Blocher in 1978. He's a renowned American fitness trainer, motivational speaker, and choreographer. He gained widespread popularity through his high-energy home workout programs like Insanity, Hip Hop Abs, and T25, which he developed for the fitness company Beachbody. Shaun T's programs focus on high-intensity interval training and are known for their challenging yet effective routines. Beyond fitness, Shaun T is a motivational figure, an inspirational individual that helps individuals overcome their mental barriers and achieve their personal bests. His upbeat personality, combined with his expertise in fitness, continues to have a significant impact on the health and wellness industry. Do you have any, you said you weren't too familiar with Shaun T's material?
Unfortunately, no.
Do you follow any motivational speakers or authors or anything that you would like to shout out?
It's crazy. If I say who I follow, people will get an idea of who they think I co-sign on, when in reality, they just say valid things every once in a while. I've heard Joe Rogan say some pretty cool stuff about making your goals happen in life that I really appreciate. I've heard Jordan Peterson say some things about overcoming adversity that really resonate with me. I don't really know about the rest of his politics, but when it comes to acknowledging how tough things can be for people and what you have to do to get past it. I really respect what he has to say.
Jordan Peterson, awesome, solid.
Yeah, there's a couple really great motivational speakers whose names I know their voices because I'll listen to them while I'm working out. But like, there's this guy who screams a lot on YouTube. It's a black dude. I can't remember his name, but he's like loud, and he always talks about like getting up at like 6 a.m. and how his wife is. She's got a disease that he had to work his butt off just to get a house in San Diego for her, and now he's a public speaker and he travels the world making like $250,000, but he still does a show every day, and like, you know, he's just a really motivational guy, and I'll listen to him, especially when I'm trying to break through certain mental blocks and thresholds in my life.
That's amazing. Wow. Well, we've kind of hit the end of our show. You did such an amazing job. You're such an amazing guest. Could you kind of, in the spirit of Jerry Springer, give us a little rest in power, give us a little wrap up of kind of what we talked about, how going to the movies is super important, how filmmaking, how films, TVs has shaped who you are as a person, and just kind of wrap it up for any of your fans or audience members.
Yeah, I mean, to me, movies are my safe place, my motivation. When I was 12, I discovered filmmaking. And I remember being a young person who was very aware that I was born with kind of a bad hand in life. I didn't have a lot of food, didn't have nice clothes, single mom who was sick at the time. And I was also aware that as a young black man, I was kind of one of the more feared and hated people in my town, maybe even in the country. But when I picked up a camera and my friends and I would start brainstorming on scenes we would shoot and what angle to shoot it from and how it was going to cut together and what to say next and was this shot good, just how I switched subjects there, my life switched focus. I wasn't thinking about how hungry I was. I wasn't thinking about how scary it was going to be trying to get back on the bus. I wasn't thinking about the cops that might try and beat me up again. I wasn't thinking about, you know, the new shoes I needed. It was just the next shot. And I think I've been living the rest of my life, or my life until this point, putting all my faith in the next shot. Like, every time I pick up a camera, I have a chance to change my life. And I can genuinely say from the moment I touched a camera at age 12 until now, my life has gotten better every year. So cinema has that sort of power. And each step I take, I have to say I've been motivated by cinematic figures like Rocky and Stallone, who, you know, one is fictional, one is real, and Jordan Peele, and you see what they do and you want to emulate it. All the shows I said, they weren't just shows that entertained me. They were shows that made me want to get up and go do it. And I think that's why talking about this sort of thing is so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Hisonni, for joining us. You were just such an amazing guest, and we hope to have you on again.
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you.
And so thank you. So we've come to an end to another wild ride through the reels of time with Flashback Montage. It's been one hell of a trip, my friends. We've revisited some of the most iconic movies, TV shows, and cultural moments of the past with a fresh, irreverent eye. We've laughed, we've cried, and maybe even learned a thing or two along the way. But the journey never truly ends, does it? There's always another year, another moment in time to explore. So keep your eyes peeled, your ears open, and your heart receptive. And join us again next week for another installment of Flashback Montage. Until then, stay weird, stay curious, and keep the nostalgia alive. And thank you again so much, Hisonni, for joining us.
Yay. Loved it, man. Loved it.